Hi my friends, today we are going to go over our check-in one and our unit multiplication test. But first I want to go over our SMART goal check-in. So most of you did a really good job with problems that started like this. What is 100 times greater than 5? Most everybody got this. You saw that we had times greater, so that tells us that we have to multiply, and then we have our two numbers, which is what is 100 times greater than 5. And then you knew that 1 times 5 is 5, and then you add your two zeros. You did a really, really nice job with that one. The one that was tricky and got almost all of you was the second one. How many times greater? How many times greater is 700 than 70? Now this is not asking the same thing. Oh, sorry, this the shadow. Let's see if I turn on the light. And it does not help. There we go. That will help. Okay, so how many times greater is 700 than 70? Now if you notice this, it starts with what is. This one starts with how many times greater. So that means we don't know how many times greater. So that is our question mark. That is our box. How many times greater is, there's our is, remember is, so that means is 700 than 70. So we have, this is our is equals 700, how many times greater, and then 70. Now with this one, it's that trick that we talked about. So if we line up our 700 and our 70, and we think, sorry, that light, we have our ones, we have our tens, we have our hundreds, we need to bring this 7 over. How many spots do we have to do it? We have, how many extra zeros do we have? We have 1, don't we? Because this matches up and this matches up. We have 1 0. So if we're looking at our times 10, times 100, times 1,000, which one of those has 1 0? That's right, 10. Or you can look at it this way and say, here's 70, here's 70. I have 1 more 0, so that means it's a 10. So let's look at a different one. How many times greater, is 5,000 than 5? Okay, so let's underline our parts. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. Same thing. How many times greater? So that means we don't know that box. We've got to find out that first box. Is equal. So we've got is 5,000. So we know our equal has to equal 5,000. And then our number that goes here is 5. And then the trick that I just showed you is we have our 5s. How many zeros do we need for it to move over? What number has 3 zeros? That's right, 1,000. And if we lined it up here, we have our 5. 5,000, and we have 5. So we want that 5 to move over. So it'd be 1, 2, 3. So that's how I knew it was 3. And this is our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. Now there's two ways that you can work this out. It can be your place value chart, or it can be the trick one over here. Both give you the same answers. So we jump how many times? That means that's 3 zeros there, so that means it's 1,000. So let's do another one. How many times greater is 300 than 30? Okay. Every time we have this, I want you, sorry, that looks like a than, that's a than. I want you to mark up your problem so you know what you're doing. How many times greater is my box? Because we don't know that. Is, remember, is the same as equals, is 300, then 30. So 30 goes here. So if I did my place value chart, I have 300 and I have 30. I got my ones, my tens, my hundreds. To move this 3 to line up equally, it's just 1 0. So I think it's going to be 10, but let's check it up here. So I box up my 30, I box up my 30. How many more zeros do we need? Same thing, just 1, right? So we have our 1, 0, so it's 10 times greater. So this is 10 times greater. And all that means is that I have to multiply it by 10. This one, it's 1,000 times greater. This one was 10 times greater. So these are the ones that the majority of you struggled with. This one was hard for you. Most of you, this one, you knew right away. So we had, remember, our is's are equal, and we just put 100 times greater than 5. What number, sorry, I forgot the word number. What number is 100 times greater than 5? So what we're going to do today is we are going to practice a few of these, and then we're going to do another check-in to see if you're able to use this strategy right here to help us figure out those ones that we were really struggling with. Every time we have a 0, it moves it over. So if we have ones and we add a 0, it moves us to the tens. If we have another 0, it moves us to the hundreds. If we have another 0, it moves us to the thousand. So every time we add a 0 and multiply by 10, it moves that number to the left and our number gets bigger. So that's what we're trying to practice here. We're trying to realize that every time we multiply by 10, hundreds, or thousands, number of zeros, that's how many places that we bounce over. So this is going to be 1 bounce over. This is going to be 2 bounces over. This is going to be 3 bounces over. So it just tells us how many, using our place value, how many times, how much bigger is the number going to be. So, and the trick is recognizing the difference between the two questions. What is 100 times greater than, and how many times greater? The how many times greater is the one where you have to figure it out. This one, you're moving it over. We took that 5, we did the 0, we moved it over twice, we've got 500. This one is going backwards, so this one's a little bit harder. So we'll be practicing those today and going over our tests that we did.